system in place to keep us in chains. By show of hands, who else is sick and tired of the same 1%? Trying to keep us small, trying to keep us from getting out. Minimizing the struggles they've caused, saying we're not working hard enough.
We really should stop this fighting. Otherwise, we'll miss the fireworks.
There won't be any fireworks.
And here we go.
And welcome everybody to Suck It Podcast. My name is Derek, and I am the host, as always, of this lovely, lovely show. Welcome to the show on this Tuesday, January 19th of the year that is 2021. I hope your week started off to a great day yesterday, with yesterday being Monday. And I hope your rest of your week is looking positive, and we're going to try to keep you that way all week long, especially with my guest this evening. So tonight, my show has kind of the honor of doing something I haven't done in a while, and I'm kind of very happy about it because I kind of wanted to take this show back in the original direction, but still kind of do what we have been doing. Talking music and movies and everything else in between, but kind of throw in one of these every once in a while to kind of make sure we stay focused on the topic at hand, which is, of course, is my mental health and yours at the same time. So I'm very, very honored with who I have with me tonight, because the gentleman I have with me tonight has been in the healthcare profession for over 40 years, wrote a book called the Fix Yourself Handbook, which we'll get into and more. But I'm very, very excited to talk to this gentleman today because I just reading through the little bit of the Fix Yourself Handbook that I've read, and a little bit about his life that I've read about. Man knows what he's talking about, and it's going to be kind of an interesting conversation. So I'm very, very, very pleased tonight to bring you Mr. Faust Ruggiero.
Hey, Derek. Thanks for the invitation. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, no problem. It's an honor to have you here. So how's everything for you going recently?
I'm always busy. I'm still counseling people after all these years. It's kind of in my blood. I don't know if I'm going to get out of it. I really enjoy it. We did the book, and now we're promoting the book, and I've done about 75 interviews in the past 7 or 8 months. So it's really taken off. So answer to the question, I am busy.
You know what? I mean, in today's day and times with everything that's been going on, being busy, I guess, is versus what it used to be. It's kind of a happiness versus, that, oh God, I'm always so busy. But now it's like, thank God I'm busy, because you can kind of take your mind off the world.
Yeah. And when your mind, when you're not doing anything and your mind starts spinning, that's a dangerous place to be, in your own head.
Yes. And that's kind of where I'm kind of going with this, especially over the last, 10 months that we've been dealing with this. The mental health care in this country is at an unprecedented time. We haven't gotten the final numbers yet, but so far early predictions are, calling this one of the worst year for suicides in the history of our country. Mental health care has not been a topic of discussion, in our governments or even on a private level. We're talking about it, but they're not, or at least I'm not feeling the effects of it. Things are just at an all-time low. Last year we just experienced, between Black Lives Matter and the constant election stuff and Corona and, the hatred and just the back and forth, people's lives are at stake. And I've never seen such a lack of movement from the healthcare field and, the government to really help us. And I'm thankful people like you are out there, because this is just insane.
It is. And the problem is, it wasn't real good when we went into this. We can fool ourselves and to think that's the case. But, we work with our defenses a lot. We deny everything. We rationalize it and do all those things. The bottom line was, it wasn't good when we went in. Then we took the initial steps with the virus, and nobody knew what to do with that.
Yeah.
And then we had Black Lives Matter. Then we had the division in the country, and all this stuff's going on. And now we're in the second wave of this virus when the country's already taken down, well, I don't know how, way down from the first one. You know, if we don't pull together on this, it's going to get real difficult because it doesn't matter. You know, okay, we have an antidote for the for the virus. That's great. And we also have about 2 or 3 years worth of rebuilding to put it all back into place because you are right. Suicides are up. Addiction is way up. People that have mental health situations, even if they're keeping it together, boy, they're having a real rough time with this situation because isolation alone kills that thing. You know, so I mean, there are ways out of it, but you know, it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, as somebody who is bipolar, you know, I have extreme anxiety and PTSD. You know, sometimes just waking up is a chore. You know, being able to put my feet on the ground and actually open my eyes is, you know, the biggest accomplishment I'll have in a day. But then to add in everything else that's been going on just makes it that much tougher, you know, and especially since I don't have a normal job, this is my lifeblood. I mean, this is the only thing I do. Um, you know, I don't leave the house much. So my day-to-day business, you know, happens literally through the computer right now. And I feel lonely constantly, and I'm just driving myself insane. The only outlet I have is the hour or two a day where I might do an episode here or an episode there, and you know, maybe do 3 or 4 in a day, and that's my only outlet. And it's I know I'm one of the lucky few, but there's worse people out there, and it's scary to think I know what I'm going through, and there's people out there that are worse.
And there are many. And the problem is, you know, you mentioned it just a while back. We're not doing enough positive here. We're going at each other instead of doing some positive things. I mean, you know, it's hard for me to turn the television or watch the news or even go on Facebook or anything. And people are just going at each other, you know, and it's their outlet. There are ways to deal with it. You know, the first thing I've been telling everyone is you got to get a schedule and keep a schedule. But when you're talking with something like you're dealing with, you know, the problem with that is you never know what's coming around the corner. I mean, you could wake up one day, and I treat a lot of bipolar people. You know, they'll tell me, you know, on the turn of a dime, I was doing okay, and all of a sudden, the bottom fell out, and I don't know how it happened. I don't know what I did. You didn't do anything. It's all internal. It's all physical. But when that happens, and then this happens on top of it, then you put financial worries and you put family stuff and kids and everything else in the picture. For a lot of people, they don't feel like there's a way out. But you know, again, there is. We just have, you know, I tell everyone, get some help. Don't isolate. That's the first step in the process. And you know, that's what you're saying. I'm home all day long, and you know, I may not leave the house. You know, go outside and scream.
Yeah.
But don't stay in the house, and don't stay alone.
Yeah.
Because now what you're going to do is focus on negativity.
And that's my biggest fear, you know, is the negativity and everything. Because not only on top of all that, you know, me and my wife back in November decided that we were going to separate, and you know, we're starting the divorce process. So on top of everything else that's going on, I mean, my personal life kind of fell apart during this whole thing as well. And it just, you know, again, like me, like everybody else, you know, it was just one thing after the other last year. And you know, I lost my job in July, and then luckily things were kind of going in the right direction with the show, so I was able to turn this into a full-time job. But again, I was one of the lucky ones. There haven't been very many like me, and it's just really, really scary. I mean, especially again, suicides are up. You know, I just mentioned I'm going through a divorce. I know divorce rates are up too. I mean, their relationships are being tested this year too, and we are hurting as a society, and yet we're sitting here complaining about, oh no, you know, the right's right or the left's right. Screw all that. You know, there's people dying out there.
And you know, and what you just said is, you know, our priorities are all over the place. We get stuck in these things that are not that important. You know, left, right. You know, the bottom line is we have lives to save. You know, while these people are fighting it out, homeless people are dying. We've got, you know, just the virus alone is taking thousands upon thousands of lives. It's wrecking families, and we're worried about, well, you don't like my candidate, so I don't like you, and that's insane to me. But that also is one of those telltale things we see when things get real tough. The truth of the matter is, in this nation, we don't know how to deal with all this kind of stuff because we have so much all the time.
Yeah.
Now, we get challenged a little bit, and then the child comes out, and I'm watching adults teach children how to react like fools. When what we had to do was take a step back. It's what I teach in the book and in the program I teach all the time. Take a step back, catch your breath, get the facts, see what you need to do, get a plan to move forward, and start doing that. And we didn't do that. Our plan was to save toilet paper. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And that right there was probably some of the most ridiculous stuff I've ever seen in my life. Because at the time I worked in retail. And then the day that it closed down, I started visiting the stores I had to visit that day because I was a district manager, so I had a lot of stores. And I was just like, I couldn't even get into the parking lots. I was like, how bad is this going to be? And that was just the beginning. And it hasn't gotten any better. Grocery chains still haven't recovered. There's still people, planning for the apocalypse. But then again, they're too busy about worrying about themselves and what they believe is right. And there's so much, negativity going on around them. They just don't care. And, have you seen, can you, like, for somebody who deals with this on a daily basis, can you give any accurate, inaccurate, guess, to why in 2021 this is still an issue?
The whole thing's an issue. And you know what? People look for why we don't get together, why we have this racial thing, why? Because we don't do anything about it. Why? Because for some people, it's profitable. That's all. I look at this all the time. Race is not black and white, it's green. For people in power, it is, you always keep other people off balance. So, Black Lives Matter, as an example, they're going to make some forward progress. And who's going to grab it first? The people in power. And I guarantee you, it will not make it back to the neighborhoods. Whatever they do will not change their neighborhood because we don't want it bad enough. Well, anything we really want, we wanted to legalize marijuana. I got nothing. Great, fine. But the point of the matter is, when we want it, we got that, but we don't seem to want equality in the nation. Yeah. We don't push as much for those things. It's a question of priorities. It's a question of what suits me. Quick fixes. That's what everybody goes for. That's another thing. That's a problem. You got to have a life plan. You got to work it, and then it does get better.
Yeah, especially with the Black Lives Matter. I don't think it. They unfortunately just didn't have enough unity between everybody to get it all done. And there were some changes that were made, and it made some huge impacts. Don't get me wrong. It's just it didn't have enough of an impact because there's too many people infighting and complaining about they're taking down the Civil War generals. They're erasing flags, and I'm like, guys. There's been TV shows around longer than the Confederacy. So I mean, it's sad that we're still having this infighting. Yeah, it's part of our country, but it's a bad part of our country, and our history. And it's just that was again why in 2021 are we still having that? And I think you're right. It's the money, the power of money. It's greed.
It's greed, and money is one part, and now it's power. You look at corporations and what they're doing. We talk about mental health. When I started counseling 40 years ago, maybe 5% of the people came in the office had medication prescribed. Now it's more like 75%. Now, in that time, we didn't get worse. We just got taken in by the drug companies who say, here's your quick fix. It's like they're our own legal cartel here. And when you get people that have that much power, that have that much money, it's not about money anymore. Now it's about power. I want to rule things. And I can't rule if all this comes together. So, last election we saw the conservatives come up. Well, no one wanted that, of course, because that's going to upset what was going forward. Now we have that underbelly of the population up, so to speak, and we're not liking it. And then people, people in power are going to try to push that down. All we're talking about are people's opinions here. Who cares?
Yeah.
The bottom line is, if we don't get unified, we're going to have a lot of problems. And that, when you go back to the virus and when you go back to mental health, is why we don't make any strides, because we don't have a plan to move forward. Someone comes into my office, what I'm going to say is, give me the problem. Now we're going to look at all the information, and we're going to put together an exact plan to get you to move forward. And if you do what I'm asking you to do, you're probably going to get better. And maybe it'll be quickly, maybe it will take a little time, but you will get better. But we have a plan. So let's just take Black Lives Matter. What was the plan after the initial thrust? I was waiting for that. Okay, what was going to happen? What's their next plan? Because they got the attention, they had the momentum. That was a great time to execute a plan. But like you said, infighting, whatever it was, there was no movement forward. So it fizzles.
Yeah. And luckily it's still going on, but it's not, doesn't have nearly the weight that it did, which is sad, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something that has always upset me. And it's, it's the people that are in charge, they decide everything. They're the one, however they can make a dollar. And that's especially true in the medical care system. People are profiting off of whether or not I'm sick or healthy. And that is a sad realization for people that, are constantly, being greedy about this or that when it comes to healthcare. Or like when, the argument of socialized healthcare comes up. Most people are like, well, I'm not going to pay for your, procedure if I'm not going to use it. Well, if you don't go to the doctor all year long and pay your premiums, you're still paying for my surgery. It doesn't matter if it's going to a private care facility or going to the government. It's still paying for my procedure. So thank you. But, it's that for-profit system because, like going back to what you said again with like marijuana, for example, there's a bunch of studies that say, it's good for mental health, it's good for cancer, it's good for this, it's good for this. But then you got a bunch of people out there, doing these studies that are paid for by Pfizer and, Moderna and everybody else saying, no. Harvard says it's bad. It's not good for your mental health. We need to, because it's all natural, and they know that, their sales of Lexapro and Xanax and Klonopam and everything else like that are going to go down, which is fine by me because I don't want to be taking Lexapro every day for the rest of my life. I'm probably going to end up doing it, but I don't want to. But I'll be damned if I wasn't able to get off of Klonopam and Xanax with the help of THC and CBD. I'm very honest and front forward. That's why I have this sponsor up here, the Wildflower Hemp Co. Great hemp company has helped me get off, whether it's a, placebo or not. I no longer have to take anything for my anxiety thanks to them. So that's my opinion. And it's that for-profit mentality, and it's sad.
And with the for-profit mentality comes the fear factor. And this is how people rule a nation. If you look at any of the advertising and what you see in social media, it's all fear-based. If you don't do this, this will happen. And if you do this, you're going to feel so much better. And you want to look at, oxymorons, you want to look at crazy situations. They put drug ads on television and they say, it's going to do this for you. And then comes a disclaimer with 10 things that it's going to do to hurt you. And then they close it by saying, now, isn't this a wonderful drug? Use it. And I look at these things and I say, what? If you have cancer and you got to take one life-saving, all right, I don't know. Change your diet. You probably won't have high blood pressure or cholesterol, but their thing is keep on doing what you're doing. Take this medication, which, by the way, it costs about 300 times more than we expend to make it happen. It'll cost us 30 cents. We'll charge you $40 uphill. And we're buying into that sort of thing, and then comes the insurance, and then comes all these things. And it's just a circle that never dies. Somewhere along the line, what I tell people is you have to advocate for yourself, just like you did. Hey, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be on that, because the truth of the matter with medications is you're only on one for a certain period of time. Then it will no longer work for you. Yeah. Then you'll go to another one, or you'll increase the dose, or they'll mix and match. And psychiatrists love this kind of stuff. So uh, there's no end to it. So somewhere along the line, you have to look for yourself, get all the right information. You're not finding that online. WebMD isn't going to give it to you. You're going to have to advocate for yourself, talk to the right people, and make some decisions that benefit you. And if you think about it, that's what's going to move us ahead with the virus. It's what's going to help mental health. People have to start advocating for themselves.
Yeah, and to kind of make light of what you just said in a funny way. You brought up the fact about how we watch TV commercials and they'll talk about, take this but there's 10 things wrong with you after the fact. One of my favorite things that I like to joke about is the fact, like with mental health medicine, like Lexapro and Zoloft and stuff like that, any SSRI, it's going to help clear up your depression. But you won't be able to have a libido anymore. Your sex drive goes way down. So now you're depressed about something else.
Yeah, right. And that might be worse.
It's even worse. But then it's like, oh, but wait, guys, we have Viagra. That'll help you.
Take another drug. Right.
And it's just hilarious to me, but yet we're worried about who's right and who's wrong, red or blue. Yet we're making light of these kind of things and talking about these kind of things, and it's taking a blind eye. Because, again, nobody wants to admit when they're wrong or when they're right. They want to shove it in our faces. And it's, again, someone like me who tries to joke about it. And as a comedian, I get to come on here and make jokes about it and, talk about different things and take my mind off of it. But at the same time, it really hurts to know that someone like me is considered, an outcast still. Or, the reason why the show is named Suck It is because, like I told you in the email, I'm sick and tired of being told to suck it up in life. So my response to them has always been suck it. It's not a sexual innuendo or anything else like that. It's nicer than saying fuck you. I mean, that's basically what it is. Because that's what it is. And at now 39, almost 40 years old, to know that I'm still dealing with this. And my mom, who's 63, going to be 64 in February, is still dealing with this. And it's not something that is anyone's priority. Because, again, they have the medicines that they tell us work. So that as long as we're still not 100% right, take this pill in addition to your depression medication because it's going to amplify it. Like I saw that one yesterday. But then again, your sex drive is done, so now you need to take Viagra. And you need to go and get regular blood tests because this enzyme might go up and hurt your liver, and it just makes me question. Again, like you said, it makes me question things, and that drives my anxiety even crazier. They know about this stuff, and they just don't even care because, again, they're still getting my dollars every month.
I always tell people the planet is how old, millions of years, depending how you believe. Somehow we survived as a species to get this far. The earth had everything we needed, and we're still here. And now for whatever in the last 50, 60 years, we need medicine now. All of a sudden, did something change in our bodies in the last 6 or 7 decades that we need medicine? No, we don't need it. We need to live properly. We need to adjust, the speed of our lives. We need to get our head out of the drama. We need to eat properly, get some sleep, all those kinds of things. It all factors in together, but we're what we've done is, again, we're quick fix, make the wrong decisions, medicate the wrong decisions, then hopefully get better. If if the medicine doesn't make you better, medicate the medicine. And it just keeps on going. We don't need all these medicines. They weren't there, and somehow we survived. Mm-hmm. We will again.
So are you of the belief that, the majority or all of the medications we use for mental health are not needed?
We need them for very, very difficult cases. People that may hurt someone else, people that can be suicidal. And sometimes we need them just to get people stabilized for a while. I'll have people come in the office and it might be a bipolar situation. I say, look, right now, obviously you don't feel you can work with me yet. Let's just get you calm down a bit. evened out, and then we're going to start going at all the problems. We're going to hit that family history, because I know I'm going to find things with you and with your mother or whoever it was. We're going to trace all this thing. We're going to put together a good timeline. We're going to get a solid plan that's going to work for you. Then you're coming off that medication, which wasn't going to be a heavy dose to begin with, just enough to even you out. Because the bottom line is everyone has problems. Everyone has anxiety. Everyone's got a little depression. And most of the time we work with it. So if it's a real serious case, just to get them stabilized to work with, because I like to have all my people off medication. I was always a medication as a last resort guy. I always still am. But the truth of the matter is they're all coming in with it now. Before they get to me, they've been on medication for 5 years. And now it's not working anymore. Oh, surprise.
Yeah.
You realize it's not designed to work for a long period of time, because what the prescription companies do is they make a medication and then it gets about 5 years. Then it goes generic. Well, then they don't make any money. So what they do is they take that medication, alter the formula just a little bit, call it something else, or call it Lexapro 2 or 3 or whatever, and then they get their patent again, and they start making their big money. So your medication's only designed to work for a certain time. That's the other part that's factored into this, and that's what people don't know. They think, well, God, this is going to work great. Not a chance. Lexapro is one of those that you're only going to get 3 or 4 or 5 years out of it. I don't care. The top dose is around 40 milligrams. They'll start you at 5 or 10, but in 3 or 4 years, you're going to be up high, and then you're going to say, I'm just not feeling good again. Well, plus, it has its toxic effects too.
Yeah, I started at 5 and then went to 10. Now I'm at 20, and I've been taking it for a little over 2 years.
And it will work for a while.
Yeah. So, someone like me who is a bipolar type 2, not type 1, what would you in your situation, obviously your opinion is different than others, so again, this isn't medical advice, it's just opinion and opinion. What do you like, what would you recommend for someone like me, who has that family history of being bipolar, a couple generations back, including my grandmother? Then what would you recommend? Like, once we were able to get me off of it, because it does take a while to come off an SSRI, what would you use? Like, what kind of, like, is it all mental, or is it a little bit of chemical as well, to where some natural effects can work and stuff like that? What do you recommend in those situations?
What I do in a case like yours is I'm going to get a really, really in-depth history. I've always done that. And that's what's not in the picture anymore today. They don't get practitioners are not getting in the histories, meaning not just social histories, psychological histories, family histories, the whole deal. I want to put together a whole big picture that says that's you. Now, once I have that, then we're going to put together a plan to move forward. That may include some medicine for a while. It may mean getting off that. It may be looking into herbal and natural supplements that work. We may change diet, because sometimes that's an issue. We're going to go to a whole plan. And the goal with bipolar, we're not, you've been living this long enough. We're not going to alleviate it. What we want to do is make it manageable. We want to say that when you get up in the morning, okay, I'm ready to go. I don't have all of this insanity in my head. I don't want to look at on a sunny day and say, let me pull the covers over my head because I just can't get out of bed. We want to get up and we want to be able to attack the day, give you some options. That requires time, and it requires a whole history so we can move forward. That's what's not occurring today. Most people are seeing a psychiatrist who sees them for maybe a half hour and says, we'll do this. Then the next time you see him, it's 10 minutes. And, and it goes from there. It takes a while. It takes really learning how to work with yourself. And I've done it. I mean, I have lots and lots of bipolar people that are out there, and we've minimized medication. There's only a few that really we fumble all around trying to get something for them, and they're the real hard cases. But not a situation like yours. What would I do? I'd go deep into the family history. I'd go deep into every part of you I could find, and then I'd put together a plan. And quite frankly, why would you want anything less from me? If I'm the guy you're talking to, you want me engaged, you want me there, you want me saying, you're with me every step of the way, and I just had a fellow call from another state. I used to see him years and years ago. Something's going on, and he said, "Can I call you tonight?" I said, "All right, I've got a slot open for a half hour. Give me a call, and we'll see where you are." I haven't seen the guy in 10 years, so we have to be there for people, and we have to get way involved. And you got to know when you walk in the office, this guy's got me, and if I bring this up, he's going to know where I'm going, and he's going to be able to start and work me through it. So it's in depth, good, solid, old fashioned therapy.
Again, you just brought up something else that happened to me, which I'm sure is going to happen all the time in this conversation. When I was first getting diagnosed, I had a really bad week. I have known for years that there was something wrong with me, but I never wanted to admit to it. I always hid it because I was afraid of it, because, I was always told, hey, there's nothing wrong with you, suck it up. So as a 36, 37, year old man at the time, I was like, they're right. Just suck it up. I'm fine. And then it wasn't until 2 years ago when I had a huge mental break and had a suicide attempt and the whole 9 yards where I finally went and got diagnosed. But when I went to see the psychiatrist, it took me months to get in there. It took me 3 months to get in there, but I digress. And then, talking with me for 5 minutes just about me, not going into my personal health, they immediately, prescribed me Zoloft. And that was it. That was the end of the conversation. I talked to her for maybe 10 minutes. This was a psychiatrist. And then within a week, I was suicidal again, and Zoloft drove me absolutely insane. So I was absolutely pissed off at the psychiatrist, and I said, I'm not doing this again. Let me go to my family practice doctor, my general care practitioner, and talk to this man and, see what he says to do and maybe get a different recommendation. No, what he did was he actually did 3 rotations of, with a psychiatrist and knew what he was doing and actually did that exact same thing, where he went through a family history and says, okay, so your mom is bipolar. Do you know what she took? What works for her? And I'm like, I called my mom in the office and I said, did Zoloft work for you? And she goes, no, it made me suicidal. He goes, okay, that's exactly why you were, because there's family chemistry there. And she goes, he's like, what works for you? Lexapro. Okay, Dirk, we're going to try you on Lexapro. Works for her, it might work for you. And that's exactly what happened. But the psychiatrist didn't care, but my general care practitioner did. And he's the one that's been managing my meds while I see an actual therapist. Because that's really sad. That psychiatrist only wants to talk about what's right for medications for you. Therapists want to do, talk to you, and they don't really work in conjunction with each other, unfortunately, sometimes in the same office. But that sometimes you'll have a really great general care practitioner that cares more about who you are because they see you on a regular than that psychiatrist. And that is really, really sad.
And that's what it's evolved to. Medicine goes quick today. That's what in the area that I live, it used to be just loaded with general practitioners. Now they're all getting swallowed up by hospitals. So now when you call for an appointment, you get the hospital, who then makes an appointment for the doctor's office, but they're not in the same location.
Yeah.
So I only, there's 3 of us around that still do it the old fashioned way. And I have a psychiatrist that will work with me. So get my people in 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
And so, and that's what I demand. I'm the guy that might show up at your house if you call me and said, I'm going nuts. I'm locked in the bathroom. I'm on my way, because again, you said it when we started the interview. I'm home. I'm alone. I'm in my head. When you have something like, what you're talking about here, bipolar disorder, you feel alone. Not only that, you feel misunderstood. You feel people feel persecuted, and often are, because, hey, come on, suck it up. So somewhere along the line, when there's that one person that says, I got you, I understand you, you're not alone. When you bring it up to me, I'm going to know where we're going. If I don't get right to the issue, at the very least, you're going to say, for an hour or so, I was not alone. This person understood who I was. And not only that, likes me. I'm okay. When I go in, he enjoys sitting down and talking with me. That's the way it should be. And people who can't do that shouldn't be in my profession. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Because again, this all goes back to that same thing where we were kind of just talking about before, where, even like right now, and I don't know if you guys can tell or if you can tell, but I'm talking really fast. I'm just kind of spitting words out and having a manic day. and I'm on my meds and I'm doing, I haven't missed a dose. I haven't done anything differently, but I'm having that manic day to where now that medicine is not working the way it should. And then maybe later this week, I'll have a depressed day and I'll just won't be able to get out of bed. It makes me wonder, again, going back to that conversation, if these pills aren't even working, 60% of the time, or say, for instance, they're only working 60% of the time, what's the point of taking them at all? I mean, if I got to deal with them 2 or 3 days a week, on top of being okay, 3 or 4 days a week, what's the sense of even taking them? If I can have to learn how to manage 3 days, why can't I learn how to manage 7?
And you're talking about that whole SSRI stuff and the chemicals going to the brain and not getting out of there when they need to, and that whole, so they tell you it promotes a balance. Again, I go back, we've been around forever. We didn't need all these meds. The problem with meds is that your body initially doesn't want to work with them. Then finally you have the upload time, it works with them. Then it gets used to them, and then they become not so efficient. And now if you went back to the doctor and you said, look, I'm having a day where I'm manic, then I'm having a day where I'm depressed, and then I'm kind of getting 4 out of 7 days, he's going to say, maybe we should increase the medicine just a little bit. Yeah. And when he does, it'll work again until your body says, which your body's designed to promote homeostasis, to bring a balance into your life. Medicine destroys the balance, so your body's trying to work against it. That's the reality of it. Yeah. So it's only going to work for so long, or at higher doses.
Yeah, it's like on days where I feel like I do right now, I would rather, than have my serotonin levels going crazy that I can actually feel the craziness going on in my brain. I would rather go upstairs, grab a couple beers, and get myself back down to a depressive state than be like this. You know what I'm saying? And use alcohol in its true intended form as a depressant and use it to bring me back down to life again. And that's a sad thing to say. Am I going to do that? No. I mean, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink for that reason. When I do drink, I drink for taste, and I have one beer and I'm good to go. But at the same time, I know that if I drink 3 or 4 of them, it's going to bring me back down to a depressive state again. And that's one of the things that I know is the reason for, some alcoholism in this country, because people who have those manic days, don't like their brain and they want to shut it off. So they drink alcohol to bring them down to at least a somewhat normal day. And sometimes they're worse than I am, and they have 3 or 4 manic days in a week. And now all of a sudden, now they're addicted to the alcohol, and now it's just become a pattern. And that same effect happens to where now you need to drink more in order to get that same stuff. So now it's the same pattern as the meds, and it's a fierce cycle.
And that's what people do. When I used to early stages, before the medicines were so big, and I'd be diagnosing depression, one of the questions I used to ask is, do you drink? Is there alcoholism in the family? And then they would say, yeah. And then they'd go back, and I'd say, okay, when you drink, tell me how you feel like, or when you start, when do you drink? When you come home? When you're drinking all day long? When you weed it out, the whole family had depression, but what was around at that time was alcohol. So come home from work, put your feet up, whatever you do, or go out and do the work outside, and they're drinking, beer after beer after beer, but then they felt good and their head was turned off and they could sleep. Because you know how it goes when you're having a day like today, when you hit the bed tonight, there's absolutely no guarantee that you're going to bed, or you're going to be that 2-hour guy that says, I'll finally fall asleep when my head, kind of works itself out. It just falls off, because there are many people, they hit the bed and their eyes light right up, and now every thought in the world goes through them. And so alcohol did the trick. And the last thing I do is tell people to try it because of the addictive part of it. But if you decided to get off Lexapro today, cold turkey, we're going to take you off the ceiling. That's just the way
yeah.
That's the way it is for this medication that they claim is not addictive. Yeah. So I don't know, what is that? You go into withdrawal when you don't take the medicine. I guess it was addictive. Yeah. It's altering brain chemistry.
Yeah, because I'll not take it for 1 day and I feel different.
You know it.
Oh yeah. If I fall asleep and wake up the next day because if I take Lexapro in the morning, I'm going to pass out again. So we always take it at night. And if I wake up the next morning going, oh shit, I forgot to take my pill, I fell asleep early, whatever the case might be, I know I'm going to have a bad day. So I make sure I take it that night and, take it on time and try to go to bed as soon as I can, because I just know it's just going to get even worse. And there's a pattern and a cycle to where, again, I want to believe, that it's working, but then at the same time, I know what you're saying to be true as well. And again, it's just, the future outlook for it is very, very scary, because, now looking at it in 3 or 4 years, what's going to be the case? Am I now going to be on that 40 milligram at that point, and now looking to do something else and make a switch, and now be scared again of being a guinea pig? Do I just say, screw it, and, try to figure something? It's that, I don't even want to think about that.
The first thing I do with people when they come in the office is I say, here are the initial things I want you to do. First of all, take everything everyone has ever said to you about bipolar or whatever you're dealing with and throw it out, because we're going to start from scratch here. Next thing is you got to, stop looking at you as part of the bipolar picture, because it's different for everyone. We're not diagnosing bipolar and we're diagnosing your bipolar.
Correct.
That's the key. And that's going to tell us all the places we want to go. But what happens is we like to label people. So if you have bipolar, you're this, and that's what they're treating you for. But we have to identify what your bipolar is, because there's a whole different mindset. There's a whole different person in there. There's a physical history. There's an emotional history and an intellectual one. The way your brain attempts to, it doesn't attempt to stop bipolar, it attempts to work with it. That's what your brain's trying to do. So we have to define how that occurs.
Yep.
And that's going to set, all that information is going to give us a plan to move forward that is designed specifically for you, not what the textbooks say, not what the psychiatrists are prescribing for. We have to know what your bipolar is. That's the key.
Correct, because what a lot of people don't understand about bipolar, and this is obviously not for your information, for their information at home, is when you're bipolar, you're not just bipolar. It's always bipolar with something else. So it's, bipolar with ADD, or bipolar with ADHD, or bipolar with OCD, or maybe it's like anxiety and ADHD like I have, but then add in PTSD on top of it. It's not just you're bipolar 1 or 2, and that's the end of the day. There's always more to it. So it is like a puzzle. It is like a a constant, what else is going on inside your brain, and aside from being high or low on a certain day, what else is going on in there that affects that as well? And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And it's just like, oh, I'm bipolar. I can never decide my right from my left. Hey, that's not bipolar. And that's the kind of mentality some people have. But again, there's so much more to it. And once you're able to dissect it and figure it all out, that's when you can actually get to the root cause of the problem. And finding the right therapist, I don't like psychiatrists. So find yourself a good general practitioner to work with, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. And a good therapist that'll work together. Because they're more about you versus just, how much the freaking insurance companies are paying them. But anyway, what are some of your, now getting into the nitty and gritty of it all, everything that we've talked about, the things that you do, the things that I like, and so on and so forth, what are some of the recommendations that you give to people when they're looking for a therapist to help fit their needs?
First thing I say is do your homework. Most people, and I get it even now, 2 people called to make new appointments yesterday. I said, how did you get to me? On the computer. I said, how do you know I'm good? We were just, when they came in, this was the first session. How'd you know I was good? I don't. Well, I said, you think you might want to know that first. So do your homework. Maybe ask people their opinions. If someone referred you there, know that if you can. And the other thing is, when you go to the first appointment, you're not obliged to stay there. If you get there in that first one and you just did not connect, and he or she was just not picking up anything that you're saying, get out of there. Because that first session is going to tell you pretty much where you go. In my first session, it's build a rapport. It's get to know the person, let them get to know me, and then that tells a whole lot about what's going on. What's the pedigree is another one. I asked the person, have you dealt with bipolar a lot? This is what I'm diagnosed at. I'm 1, I'm 2, whatever. Have you dealt with that? Do you know exactly where to go? Are you a specialist in that particular thing? And you're going to find that that's one of the ones that people, most therapists aren't too sure what to do with. So you want to ask those questions. I mean, if you're going to go to the doctor and you've got cancer, you're not going to a foot doctor. You want to know that that person can deal with your problem. Ask that question. You'd be surprised how far you get with that particular question.
Yeah, 100% on that one. So alongside of this, in the past few years, there's been this insurgence of teletherapy, whether it be my sponsor, BetterHelp, or Talkspace. There's been this new availability of therapists that can be at the touch of a, button, versus having to sit in a waiting room and talk to someone like yourself. With those additional things, what do you feel about those types of, I know they're now competitors to you, but I don't really know how you look at the competition system of it all. I think it makes everybody better, but what do you feel about those types of companies that just do the telehealth stuff versus that face-to-face?
The format isn't that important. With the virus, I mean, I kept office hours. I was fortunate. I have a very large office, so I could keep distance. But a lot of people, a number of people didn't want to come in, so we did Zoom or we did whatever. It still comes back to how good the therapist is and how you're going to vet that therapist. So you go to a company, they say, okay, fine, we have this group of therapists, and we'll set up an appointment online, put your credit card in, here we go. And it still comes down to the therapist. Can the therapist do a good job for you? And is that person qualified? We get a lot of people that are taking these quick courses. I don't have a problem with life coaches or whatever they want to call it. It's because some people are just good. But the point of the matter is, are they schooled enough to do what you need? Do they have the experience, again, to deal with your problem? Are they good therapists? That's the bottom line. And how you find that out online, that's a little harder than, the guys down the road or the guys in the next town and you're going to drive over. So the key is to make sure that your person is good. For people that aren't going to go to therapy or are unwilling to say, I don't want, that whole stigma, I don't want to go into an office. At least there's something for
correct.
That. Yeah. I don't worry about, I never worried about competition in my profession because there's an abundance of people. I mean, really.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things that kind of sucks, is logging onto your, like you just mentioned here a second ago, logging onto your Cigna or Aetna website and then looking at this long list of doctors and seeing if they're accepting new patients, and then just randomly calling and say, how long is it going to be for appointment? And then you might get to see them, and then eventually, they're not the right person for you. So it kind of goes back and forth to where you just got to have a good vetting process and really figure out, talk to other people. There's social groups on Facebook, for your, in every city. Ask around. I mean, there's ways to figure out the best way for you. And, again, there is that option of, BetterHelp or Talkspace. I recommend BetterHelp, obviously. But again, the cool thing about them is, if you don't like one, you'll have a different one the next week, and then you'll have a different one the next week until you finally get one that's right. So it's all down to preference and how good that therapist is, exactly what you said. And it's all about what's right for you.
One of the telltale signs when you're looking for a therapist is how fast you're going to get in. You don't want someone that obviously doesn't have any people, but you want to be able to, if someone calls me, I do this for a living. I've been in this for a long time. I know if they took the time to call me, they're in trouble. So I'm going to say, well, I've got one about 6 weeks from now. They might be dead, So one of the telltale signs that when you come to that vetting process is when first of all, are you talking to the therapist on the phone, or are you talking to a secretary? If you say, can I talk to him? Would you ask him to call me back or her? I would hope they would do that. The calls come to our office. I get them then, and then I call the people back. I make the appointments because I like that. I want to talk to the person. I want to see what we need. I want to see how fast, they can get to me, how fast I can get to them. If there's anything they're going to need to do before they come in, like maybe a medical history or whatever. So, and what I do is, it's kind of a policy in my office is, if you called me this week, we're going to try to get you in this week. We keep an appointment or two just for new people to come in. If they're putting you off right from the beginning, they're not going to work for you. That's a telltale sign.
That is some good advice. Very much so. So lastly here, I want to go ahead and kind of talk about the book a little bit more. What was the ultimate, hold on, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. What was your goal with this book? Are you looking just as a guide to someone to get help and, come to someone like you, or a guide to where they can say, maybe I can get this under control myself? What was the ultimate idea behind the book?
Both, being in practice for as long as I have, you find things that work and you find things that don't work. And I put together a program. I call it the process way of life. It's nothing more than using life process, the things we have inside us, or we can, honesty and setting boundaries and, learning how to pace life, getting your intellect over your emotion, those kind of things. And I put them into a program, and I used that for about 20 years in my office. A couple thousand people went through with it, and it worked so well because it's only designed to make a person stronger, not to deal with one particular problem. So it applies to any problem. The goal is make me stronger internally, because if I can do that, then I'm better equipped to deal with what's out there. So I put that program together, and about 3-4 years ago, I said, after lots of urging from a lot of people, can you put this into a text we can read? So I spent some time researching it, and I decided that as opposed to having one of these self-help books where it's, fix yourself in 10 easy steps, or you can cure this by this, what if I put the whole program out there? There are 36 chapters, all with a different problem. But I made them 3 or 4 or 5 pages long, depending. And then I present the problem. I give them good capsulized view of, this is the information you've got to know. I went out and got it for you. I put it in this design. And at the end of each chapter, I say, now do this. If you do this and you keep doing it, you're going to see yourself start to get better. And I do that 36 times throughout the book. That's what people are coming back when they're saying, gee, finally somebody said, okay, well, you got this, and maybe you want to try this. He said, do this, and it's working. If you look through self-help, we don't find that much. That was the design I thought was missing, where we talked about a problem, and all of us say, all the therapists say, you learn to love yourself. And I thought, how do you do that? And nobody told me. So we worked that whole thing through, and we put the steps there. So I've done that throughout the book. And then I wanted it to be a reference book, since it's written in short chapters. If you used it a year from now, maybe it fell off a little bit, I can go right back to that chapter, pick that up, and start the process again. I also wanted it to be for people. A guy doesn't want to go to counseling. Lots of guys don't. No. But I wrote it kind of for guys and girls. So guys now are picking up. I get a lot of men that are picking up the book and saying, well, you know what? This is written where a guy could understand it. There's no fluff in this. It says, here's the problem. Here's the stuff you got to know. Now go do it. That's what guys like. And I'm getting married couples that are reading a chapter at a time. So I'm getting a lot of people that are using that instead of, or in addition to therapy. For some people, it's been something they've done before therapy. Well, I've read that. Now I know what I got to do, but maybe I need a little help, because I say that throughout the book. Don't just read this book. If you think this is a little difficult, go get help. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's what we've done, and it's quite frankly is doing pretty well. I'm kind of happy.
Yeah, because you're 100% right. There's no shame in asking for help.
No.
Never. Doesn't matter if you're a man, female, doesn't matter, non-binary, whatever you want to, classify yourself as, regardless of it, there's no shame in it. I don't care if you're a 350-pound power lifter. You're going to cry, at certain points in your life. And that's okay. But, be sure to, again, ask for help, even if it's just, talking to your wife. at least don't ever hide it. I mean, if you're afraid to talk to a therapist, there's ways around that. Again, teletherapy, you can just text, there's ways around it. But at the same time, at least talk to your significant other, a friend, a mom, a dad, a brother, somebody to at least let them know that you're not okay. But at the same time, it's okay to not be okay. So don't ever, there shouldn't be no judgment on it. There shouldn't be.
And you're right. And, you have to feel that you're important enough to, for someone else to say, yeah, I'll listen to you. Find out who that is. A lot of people have, have attempted to do that, and they've been shut out, and they say, well, no one's going to listen to me. Yeah, there will be one. You just didn't get to that person yet. Knock the doors down. Do what you have to do. Get to the person that wants to listen to you. They are out there. It's family. It's friends. It's a therapist. Whatever. It doesn't matter who it is. It's a priest. Whatever works for you. Get to somebody. Get out of your own head, because after a while, you become the hamster on the wheel, and you're going over the same old ground again, and there's no way off that wheel. And COVID is a perfect example. We're staying in the house. Not a good idea. Just talk. Get out and get some fresh eyes on what you think you're seeing, and that often it puts you in an action mode is what it does. And you got to get out of your head where you're just thinking things. Go do something, even if it's not the right thing the first time. Keep on going. You're going to get to the right thing. It will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Faust, let me just tell you, this has been a fantastic conversation. I can sit here and talk to you for hours, but I know you're a busy man. But at the same time, thank you for what you do for the mental health community. Thank you for writing this book. Because like I said, the 2 chapters that I've gotten in on it so far, I'm loving it so far. I'm going to continue to read it the rest of this week. And I'll follow back up with you. But at the same time, it's, I'm already seeing the positives in the book, and I cannot wait to, continue to read it and finish it and stuff like that. And, it's definitely a positive thing. So I appreciate everything you've been doing and what you're currently doing and what you will do. I know.
It's been my pleasure. On my end, I do a lot of these interviews, and when I'm doing one with someone like yourself, you're far more insightful than most of the people that I'm talking to. You're living it. Your questions were on the mark, led me into where we needed to go to help people out. I thought we did a real good job working off each other here, and I think some people are gonna benefit from what we've done. So on my end, it couldn't have been better.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you saying that. I really, really, truly do. I try to take pride in this conversational type interview, because again, like I told you before we started recording, I feel it gives the best conversation, and I do feel we did accomplish that today. So tell everybody where you can find the book.
Yep, there are 2 places. The usual Amazon, Barnes and Noble have it. Just go on their website. I have a website, which is my name, FaustRuggiero.com. If you want to really know all about the book, that website is dedicated solely to the book. It's got chapter outlines. It's got everything you need to know about that book in there. So you can actually go there and say, is this book for me? Because I think, it's good to be transparent on this. If it's not for you, maybe you don't want to buy it. But on the other hand, you'll find everything you need about that book on the website.
And all the links for the website and all the, where you can buy the book is in the description of the podcast and of the video. Faust, again, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope that one day we can do it again.
Anytime you want. I appreciate it.
And no problem. Thank you.
All right.
And guys, thank you so much for being here tonight. I will see you guys tomorrow. So again, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and as always, stay healthy. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.